Oh, hello! Today we are talking about what I have read so far in October, how my reading's going, what I'm currently reading, what I might read next, etc. And it's interesting because I had a surgery last week by the time you guys are seeing this, and I'm not even gonna get into that. That's like a whole thing. But in terms of preparing for it, I just was like all over the place. I was having a really hard time finishing things. Like in the last couple of days, I've actually finished, I think, like 5 books because I just kept picking things up and putting them down. A lot of things that I'm enjoying and a lot of things that I'm going to wait to talk to you guys about at the end of the month. But yeah, it's been kind of a scattered reading month, but good so far. And I have a couple of things up on the docket that I'm also pretty excited about. So with that being said, let's get into what I've already read before we talk about future plans. Okay, in terms of hits that I will talk about more at the end of the month, definitely The Love Con by Ceresia Glass, which is a contemporary romance that is based on like a cosplay contest or like a reality show kind of competition show. And it is with our protagonist and her best friend who's going to help her with the final challenge. They're pretending to be in a relationship for the show, but also he has been like waiting to make his move and he's like, haha, now is the time. And I love this. It was so it put a smile on my face, and I feel like nobody's talking about this book. But anyway, that is definitely a hit. I will talk about that at the end of the month. Another hit I'm going to talk about at the end of the month is The Last House on Needless Street by Catriona Ward. This came out at the end of September, and it's one of the first books in the new Nightfire line from Tor, which is like their horror line. And I have some mixed feelings about this, but just how fantastic the writing is and how good the characterization is, I think is kind of undeniable for me. So we'll talk more about it. It's ultimately a hit, but yeah, anyway, I have a lot of conflicting emotions about this book, basically, but we'll talk more about that. And then also Savage Appetites for True Crime Stories of Women, Crime, and Obsession by Rachel Monroe. This was an audiobook that I liked so much that I picked it up in physical form, and I will talk more about that at the end of the month. This is also going to inform a video that I think you guys will be seeing maybe next week. So yeah, this was very thought-provoking. So those were some hits I'll talk more about later. And then I have like 2 short novellas that got recommended to me from Kindle Unlimited that I'll talk about as surprises. One was Feed by Aveda Weiss, I think is the pen name, and it was a lot. We'll talk about it. And then The Naughty List by Ellie Mae McGregor, I think is the author. Both of those were surprises. Both of them were like erotic novellas with like very interesting elements thrown in. One of them has a Death Head Moth shifter fairy, and the other one has Santa Claus in some like BDSM. It was, guys, I don't know what I was expecting considering the way that they were described in the back of the covers, but I got exactly what the promise of the premise delivered. So, interesting books. In terms of some things I can talk about that I read that I'm not going to address at the end of the month. So first I did read His Human Ward by Michelle Mills, which is the latest in her sci-fi romance series about this planet that is inhabited by aliens that look like what we on Earth would describe as literal like devils. They're like red with horns and tails, etc. It's a really fun series. It drives me crazy because there's always something like a little off in this series. She's had a few books from her that I'm like, everything is working and like this is when it's like really, really good. And it drives me nuts because I know she can do it, but I don't know if it's like editing time or like deadline. I don't know, but there's always some extraneous repetitiveness in these books that keep it from being as good as it can be and like as good as I know she's capable of because I've seen her do that. It's very frustrating. Anyway, there's like some repetitiveness in this that is unnecessary. If it had been shorter, I think it would have been much better, but I still enjoyed it because she still has something there. And anyway, this particular one was one of our aliens finds out that he has a human ward and he's expecting like a literal child, but he actually is getting like a 19-year-old and he has like a tragic backstory, as does she, and like they have the hots for each other, but like they have this legal arrangement that is making things difficult. So anyway, it was fun, but not as good as I wanted it to be, sadly. Actually, in contrast to that, Worst Guy by Ruby Dixon, while we're talking about sci-fi romance, like let's just keep going. This is the follow-up to Bad Guy, which she released earlier this year, and this is tied into her Rizdaverse series. And I actually think that this was a more successful version of Bad Guy. It's the same kind of sort of monster trope trope, but like alien monster versus supernatural monster. And I think that this one worked better. It was shorter, and I think that the plot setup was more successful. In this one, we have a human who wants to become like kind of the human social worker on Rizda, and her first assignment, which all of the aliens think she's going to fail at, is one of the clones from Kurldin, the Ruiner, who we met in Bad Guy. And, you know, she's had a really traumatic past, so has he. They connect, and I think this was a better version. I also think it's interesting to see a Messica who is like not good. It's called Worst Guy, and I think that there's some like metaphorical layers happening there. I think, is his name Riffin? I think is the Messica who is trying to court our heroine, and he's like not a good dude. So I thought that was an interesting addition to sort of the layering of the world. And yeah, this one I just think was a better, like, I really like this one. I think this was better than Bad Guy, and I think it just played into Ruby Dixon's strengths. I love Ruby Dixon. I look forward to her release every month. God bless her. And then in terms of things I don't have in physical form, I guess the only other one would be Sawbones by the McElroys. Justin McElroy and Dr. Sidney McElroy, who have the podcast Sawbones, and this is like the book version, and I love that podcast. I really like most of the McElroy family properties, and this is one that's basically about the history of quackery and medicine, or sort of like just generally various cul-de-sacs we have gone down as a human race trying to figure out how the human body works and how to take care of it. So I don't think that if you listen to the podcast, there's a lot of like new information here, but it was just nice to hear their voices. I was listening to the audiobook. It had some nice nuggets in it that I don't think have been covered on the podcast previously. I thought it was just fun. And I wonder, because I think the physical book has like illustrations and stuff in it, I could see this being a good gift book for somebody who's interested in like science or kind of unusual history. So yeah, I think it was good. It wasn't like amazing. It didn't blow my mind, but if you are a lover of the podcast, I think it's a nice extension of the Sawbones verse. And then a few other things that I read that I have in physical form. So I read both of the category romances from Nora Roberts that were in this bind up. The first one was called Impulse, which is about a woman who is a CPA who quits her high-powered corporate job to like pursue her passions, which I related to because I did something kind of similar when I was her age, which makes me feel old saying that. But anyway, she was 24. I think I was 25 when I did that. And it was cute. It was very quick, so I don't think it had enough time to like develop fully, but it was fun. I liked it, and I really liked our heroine. And then Name of the Game I actually quite enjoyed. It was basically between a woman who is a producer of a television show, a quiz show kind of thing, and there's an actor who comes on the quiz show as like a guest panelist, and he immediately has the hots for her. She has no interest in a relationship, but she feels the connection too, and so it's their romance. And I really like that one. I thought it was a very nice example of a category. So anyway, this was just successful all around. And then for book club, Blades and Bodice Ripper book club, our pick this month is The Last Final Girl by Stephen Graham Jones, which I'd read My Heart is a Chainsaw from him earlier this year, and this is like an incredibly similar book, but I like this version of it better. Yeah, we're gonna have book club, so you'll get like full thoughts. That is going to be on Halloween Eve, the evening before Halloween. So if you want to come hang out with us that night, talk about slasher films / books with slashers, I think this will be a fun conversation. And yeah, this was also included briefly in the vlog that I just put up of me reading serial killer books. So if you're interested in that, that's also up on the channel. And then the last thing that I can talk to you guys about that I read in physical form was The Story of Classic Crime in 100 Books. You can see I tabbed the hell out of this one. This is going to be, I'm working like a long-term video essay I'm working on is sort of like the history of the mystery genre. So I was reading this as a part of that. And I would say this isn't like the best history of a literary genre that I've read. I don't know that this was like super insightful from that perspective, but I did think it was an interesting choice to pick 100 books to represent the different themes that Martin Edwards is touching on. So where there were books that I had read them already, I did read those sections. I didn't read the sections for books that I both had not read and want to read at some point. So I didn't read every single page of this one, but I read all the ones where I either had read them or didn't have an interest in the book. And yeah, I think that this was an interesting approach, different, and like I said, maybe not like the most insightful, but sort of a different take on approaching the genre. So if you are a buff of classic mystery, I think that this is one that you would find interesting. I know that I did. And then in terms of what I'm reading right now, I've been saying this for months, but I promise that I have a plan to finish this book today. So that is my hope and plan. I am reading The Son of Poseidon by Rick Riordan because I really do want to get through the rest of the Heroes of Olympus spinoff, like the second series in the Percy Jackson verse. I really would like to get through that this year, so I really am hoping I'm gonna finish that book up today. It's mostly like I've been wanting to have time to really like savor it, so I think that's been kind of why I've been putting it off, but I'm hoping that's gonna happen today. I also, while I'm cooking, because today is a meal prep day for me, do other people do this? Like I enjoy cooking if I have time to do it, so I don't like doing it really during the week very often. I like to do it on the weekends when I can, so I can like take my time and not feel rushed. Anyway, when I do that, I will have an audiobook on, and it will be Dead Blondes and Bad Mothers, Monstrosity, Patriarchy, and the Fear of Female Power by Sadie Doyle. I just noticed that this was on Scribd, so I think this is going to be today's audiobook, and I have been looking forward to this for some time because I very much enjoyed Trainwreck by Sadie Doyle, which I'm going to be talking more about in a different video in the coming weeks, but I wanted to go ahead and read the other piece of nonfiction that is sort of in a similar vein from her, so I'm hoping that that is going to be today's audiobook. And then I don't have a lot of plans for what I might read next because, as you guys know, I'm on a real mood reading kick right now. The good news is I, as of right now, have read every advanced reader copy that I have for 2021. So I am done with 2021 arcs, and that means that if I want to, I can start on 2022 arcs. And actually, I guess we'll talk about that first. So I'm looking at my January ones I already have. One is Seasonal Work by Laura Lippman. This is going to be the first Laura Lippman book that I will have read, and it is a bunch of short stories that are mystery thriller. So I'm really excited about this. I'm hoping that this will be a good introduction to her work. I often enjoy starting with authors with short stories when they have them, just to get sort of a flavor of what their writing is like. So I'm very excited for that. I have an arc of Reckless Girls by Erin Hawkins, which is a thriller. I'm trying to remember. I honestly don't remember the premise of this. I try not to know too much about thrillers before I go into them. Often it's just like there's usually some sort of hook that appeals to me. So I'm sure that that was the case for Reckless Girls. I should look it up real quick. And sorry, it's by Rachel Hawkins. I confused it because I believe her other pen name is Erin Sterling for when she's writing romance. But anyway, Reckless Girls is about boyfriend and girlfriend who are sailing two women to a remote island in the South Pacific. And then it sounds like the owners of the boat are also there. So there's the six of them, they're on this boat, and then I think murderousness happens. So I think the reason that I was interested in this is because that seems like it might be a variant of an isolated closed circle mystery, which you guys know I'm always got my eyes open for. So that is why I requested that one. So that comes out in January. And then Highland Wolf is Lindsay Sands' next historical romance set in the medieval Scottish Highlands. I love those books. They're so campy and fun. I look forward to them every year. So I have that one as well. So I may go ahead and get a head start on some arc reading, just so I can get ahead a little bit. And then in terms of a buddy read, I am reading My Cousin Rachel by Daphne du Maurier with Alan from the Library of Alexandria and Leanna from Leanna's Library. We read Jamaica Inn earlier this year, which I think I liked it the best, but we all enjoyed it and we all agreed we still want to read some more from Daphne du Maurier. So this is the one that we are reading this month, and I am excited to get to it. So that is a buddy read I'm planning to get to. And then the only other mood reading thing I'm hoping I get to is Monstrous, which is the 6th edition called The Vow, and we left things at a very interesting place in the last edition. I read that at the beginning of the year and really enjoyed it, and Monstrous is one of my all-time favorite fantasy series, even though any one of the volumes is not like an all-time favorite. The story as a whole is always a favorite, and like the art is just beyond. I can't even handle how beautiful it is. I feel like I need to find an example to show you. Yeah, like I just love the art in this particular series. So anyway, that's what I'm hoping I'm going to get to next. Definitely let me know how your reading month is going so far, what you thought of any of the books that I discussed. And yeah, I think that will do it for me for now. So if you enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe, follow me on the social medias if you are so inclined. I have all that information listed in the description box below, and I think that will do it. I hope you're having an absolutely lovely day today, and I will just talk to you soon. Bye!